guys. Hello, hey. How's it going? It is very good to see you again. Welcome, finally, back to Always Tired, the show where I'm gonna read a creepy story and you're gonna listen if you want. You don't have to, I guess. But that's what I'm here for. I'm here for you. I grew antlers, which, you know, antlers don't, or horns, I guess. Are they horns? Are they antlers? Horns sounds cooler. I'm gonna go with horns. But horns don't run in the family, so I guess it must have just skipped a bunch of generations or something. I don't know how genetics work. Nah, I'm goofing. Obviously, it's crocheted or something. Got it off of Etsy. It's very cool though, right? It's cute. It's a whole thing, right? But I'm very happy to be back, finally, recording another story. The one we've got today, I think, is going to be pretty good. I've not actually read this one myself. Our story today is called The Theater. It was written anonymously back in 2010, September 4th, 2010. I think this is a pretty popular one, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't appear to be very long. Yeah, not very long. But the only knowledge I have of this going in is that Markiplier made a video a long time ago, I think, playing a game based on this story. Unless the story is based on the game. I don't know. I don't really know. Yes, The Theater is our story for today. I'm excited to get into it. Hopefully my microphone sounds better. I've been messing with the settings. Without further ado, let's get into The Theater. Have you ever heard of an old PC game called The Theater? Yeah, I didn't think so. Probably because many people say it doesn't even exist. You see, The Theater is an old computer game released around the same time as Doom. Today, if you ever find it, it's only available on crappy bootleg CD-ROMs, which, more often than not, don't even actually contain the game. The actual legitimate copies that they say were released back in the day feature a blank cover with nothing but the sprite of what has since been named the Ticket Taker. He is simply a poorly drawn, pixelated, Caucasian, bald man with large red lips wearing a red vest over a white shirt and black pants. He is completely emotionless, though some say that if you smash the disc, his face is shown as angry the next time you look at the cover. But this is just dismissed as an urban myth. What is peculiar about The Theater, though, is that there is no developer named on the jewel case, nor a game description on the back. It is simply the Ticket Taker on a white backdrop on both sides. Okay. I love this so far. How did they describe him? A simply a poorly drawn, pixelated, Caucasian bald man with large red lips wearing a red vest over a white shirt and black pants. Completely emotionless. Why is this making me think of Baldi's Basics? I mean, different fit, but like, same energy, right? Creepy, poorly designed dude, bald dude with a red smile or red lips. I don't like that. But makes you wonder, what does the Ticket Taker have to do with the actual game? And I wonder, it says it's a disc, so they said it's a PC game, right? A computer game? Yeah, they said it's a computer game that came out around the same time as Doom. So pretty old. Fairly old now. Interesting. Okay. The game was initially known for its inability to install correctly. The installation process immediately locks up the computer when the user reaches the licensing agreement. Also strange about the licensing agreement for the theater is that whenever the development studio is supposed to be named, the text is simply a blank line. Anyways, most people who have claimed to own one of the original CDs say that they figured out how to install the game by simply rebooting their computer on the licensing agreement with the disc still inside. Then they are prompted to press I agree on startup. Then they continue with the installation. The game then starts up without any introduction besides a main menu that is simply the sprite of a movie theater's exterior on an empty city street. The title fades in, and then the 3 menu buttons: New Game, Load, Options. Selecting Options immediately crashes the game to the desktop. Load is said not to function at all. Even if you do have a saved game, nothing happens when you press it. Thus, New Game is the only working menu option. Ooh, and we have a picture. Okay. Provided by Blank, free of charge, suggested retail price $9. Blank Software, 1993. Interesting. I like the inclusion of pictures. I'm a 5-year-old at heart, so, having pictures always makes everything better for me. Once it is selected, you are in the first-person view. You are standing in an empty movie theater lobby, with the exception of the ticket taker standing in front of a dark hallway, which one can only assume leads to the theater themselves. There's nothing to do but look at the poorly drawn, mostly illegible movie posters or approach the ticket taker. Once the player moves towards the ticket taker, a very low-quality sound clip plays saying, "Thank you. Please enjoy the movie," along with a speech box saying the same thing. You then walk into the hallway, and the screen fades to black, and you're back in the empty lobby, and you do the exact same thing again and again and again. Ooh. So this makes me think of, if we're talking about video games, this makes me think of PT. You guys remember PT? Of course you remember PT. Everybody knows about PT. So you spawn in to the movie theater lobby. You go to the ticket taker. It says, "Thank you, please enjoy the movie." And then you walk into the hallway, fades to black, and you just spawn in again. That alone is a little unsettling. But I can see if you were to play this for real, this probably wouldn't be freaking you out so much as just annoying you, or like maybe not even that, just like, oh nice, a shitty unfinished game or whatever. I'm thinking this is gonna go sideways, as these things tend to do. While this may sound like a really horrible game, a number of peculiar things occur as you continue to play it. The number of times that you have to continue into the hall after giving your ticket to the ticket taker before the strange events happen is unknown. Most state that it's completely random. It could take anywhere from the first playthrough to the 400th. What happens, though, has deeply disturbed some players. Alright, now we're getting into the meat and potatoes. This is what we all came for. Also, I wonder where this person, our writer, our narrator, I wonder where they're getting this information. Because it's saying, like, reports say, and it is said, yada yada. So I'm wondering, like, is this a well-known thing in this universe? And this guy is just doing a report on it? Or, I don't know. I just wonder where our narrator is getting their information if they didn't experience it firsthand, which so far seems like they have not experienced it firsthand. They have not experienced it firsthand. They've just heard reports and read other people saying that this is what happens when you play the game. Anyways, the first occurrence is when the player fades back in after walking into the hallway. This time they will notice the ticket taker is completely absent. The player then, without any other options, decides to walk into the dark hallway. Sound clip and text box mentioned previously still play in the absence of the ticket taker, but when the player walks into the hallways, the screen does not fade out. It goes pitch black as they walk deeper into the hall, but the player's footsteps sound clip is still playing as they continue to push the up button on their keyboard. Those claiming to have played the original game report to have felt extremely uncomfortable walking down the hallway, anticipating the whole way something horrible happening. Well, eventually the player is unable to move forward. There is nothing for a few moments before a strange sprite that is described as the ticket taker, but with a swirl for a face, appears and stands before the player. The original players of the game say their bodies immediately froze up and their stomachs churned when they saw the sprite, which has been appropriately named the Swirly Head Man. Very original name, guys. Wow. Nothing happens as the Swirly Head Man stands before them. Then suddenly a piercing screech plays as the game glitches out. This lasts for a few minutes, with the screeching being continuous. Then the players abruptly return to the lobby, all the sounds and graphics being as they should be. The game continues normally for the next couple of cycles of entering the hallway, with a couple of the original players claiming the Swirly Head Man would briefly appear and disappear in the corner of the screen as a brisk yelp sound effect plays. Then, at some point after meeting the Swirly Head Man, the player sees the ticket taker pacing back and forth. Though there is no walking animation, the sprite's limbs are completely static, so he just hops up and down slightly as a substitute. Like bro's just... nice, dude. With his eyes being wide and his mouth open to simulate a worried facial expression. Some players noted that the movie posters had been replaced with images of the Swirly Head Man, which caused them to immediately turn their character's head away from the posters and approach the ticket taker. Then another different, low-quality sound clip plays. The speech box contains nothing but corrupted characters that cause whatever text that would have been in the box to be completely illegible. Due to the extremely low quality of the sound, it is debated by players what exactly the ticket taker says at this point, though it is widely agreed that he says,
"Never reach the other levels."
Then the screen fades out once again and returns the player back to their starting point in the lobby. But the ticket taker is gone, and the hallway is blocked by a large brick wall sprite. Touching the brick wall will immediately crash the game. That's all there is to it. No one knows what the other levels are, or how to gain access to them, nor is it known why the Swirly Head Man causes such acute fear in those who have seen him in the game. All the original copies of the theater have either been lost or destroyed. But the creepiest part is the fact that all the original players of the game claim to occasionally see a brief glimpse of the Swirly Head Man out of the corner of their eyes. And that was the end of the short but sweet story, The Theater. So this story was originally posted on 4chan, and says here a sequel was made called The True Story of the Theater, which was also anonymously written. It makes you wonder if this was written by the same person who wrote the first one. But since that was short, and this one seems to be just as short, if not shorter, let's go ahead and read the sequel too. Why not? But thoughts on that first one, pretty good. I'll go into more detail on my thoughts at the end, but I liked it. It was pretty short, and there wasn't like a whole lot there, but it's also, I mean, it's a fairly old story. It's not bad. It's not bad by any means. But overall, I'd say I'd give it a 5.5 out of 10. That seems fair. 5.5. It's pretty highly rated on creepypasta.com. It was okay. So let's just go ahead and jump into the sequel, The True Story of the Theater. It's not something whispered about in certain circles. It's not something that comes in a plain-looking jewel case. It's not by a nameless, untraceable developer, and it's certainly not supernatural. The game in question is indeed called The Theater, R before E, and was developed by a company called Solida Software. I'm fairly certain it's an English company, despite the Spanish name. As far as I know, all they made was learning software. I have a math suite from them somewhere around here. So The Theater was probably meant to be some sort of edutainment game. The game was obviously never finished, probably from lack of funding or the whole company going under. The description in the story is actually pretty accurate. It's in a first-person perspective, with flat sprites in a 3D-ish environment, and glitchy as hell. The ticket taker has an egg-shaped body, and one of his hands is huge and misshapen, I think to look like he's reaching towards you for your ticket. The description of the swirly head man is also accurate, just a glitched version of the ticket taker. I saw a few people saying that he looks like Gygus. Gygus? Who or what is a Gygus? Oh. Yeah, I don't like that. Okay, no, I do know what that is. It's from Earthbound. It's this thing. It's this. It's that. It's this thing. This creepy MF. Anyways, I saw a few people saying that he looks like Gygus. That's not the case. The features of his face are just swirled, and are red because his lips are gigantic. I have absolutely no idea why this happens, because while there are a few character sprites in the game's resources, that isn't one of them. Oh, and just to clarify, the sprite is a bit creepy. That's all. Not terrifying. It's never filled me with a sense of dread. It's just a bit creepy. The game plays pretty much exactly as stated in the story. So accurately, in fact, that I think the author just downloaded it somewhere and decided to make a scary story of his experiences. I'll admit that some things in it can be unsettling, but not OMG crap your pants scary. Yeah, you can tell this sequel was written in 2011. Like I said, the game is unfinished and very glitchy. I think the idea is to select a movie from the posters on the wall, enter the theater, and play a minigame. The minigames are glitchy, and missing resources, to the point of being almost unplayable. But there doesn't seem to be a time limit on any of them. So you just have to plow through until you've done something right enough times to be dumped into the lobby. What's described in the story is what happens if you don't select a movie. You'll be allowed to enter the theater, but since the parameter of which game to load hasn't been set, you'll just be dumped back into the lobby. Here's where it gets a bit weird. If you continue to enter the theater without choosing a movie, odd, sometimes creepy things will happen. I'm not sure why, but if I were to make an educated guess, it would be that glitching past the minigames like this causes variables to reach values that they weren't meant to, resulting in things appearing where they shouldn't. Or, the game is just glitched to hell and back. It's been years, but here are some of the effects I can remember. The swirly head man, movie posters appearing out of their frame, textures changing color, legitimately disturbing audio issue, other characters, other areas. Okay, hang on. So I know this is short, and I was gonna just keep going until it was finished, but I do want to give my thoughts here. So, according to this sequel, the story we read before is basically embellishing and basically lying, saying that it's apparently a supernatural occurrence. This person is saying it's not that at all, it's just a fucked up old game with a bunch of issues, but it's not supernatural, and it's not as bad as the last story would have you believe. Which is an interesting way of, if this was written by the same person as the first story, it's an interesting way of telling your story, having the first part be this creepy little urban legend type thing, and then the sequel is somebody objecting to that story with their own story that is being told to us are the real events, or what the game is really like. And I think this is a very interesting way of telling the story. I like it a lot. But let's go ahead and plow through the rest. The last two are obviously the most interesting ones. Sometimes you'll spawn in a small room with a black floor and green walls, which will crash the game if touched. Sometimes you'll appear in a room similar to the lobby, with a concession stand. Kind of. There's a woman behind the counter with an incredibly poorly drawn popcorn machine and soda fountain. But it's all just an image on the wall. It's basically just a big yellow concession stand mural. I don't remember if you can interact with it or not. The only character that appears worth talking about is a guy in a brown jacket, who appears on the sidewalk outside the lobby. Looking back, I don't think the story mentioned this, but to the left of where you start out, the wall is a row of glass doors looking out onto the street outside the theater. If you glitch past the minigames enough, a man in a weird looking jacket, I think it's supposed to be tweed, it's a mess, with a huge smile on his face, will be just on the other side of the doors, staring at you. I mean a huge smile, like Freaky Fred or Spark Brushel. Google image search if you want. I won't. Just because you told me to. I will not. I get the idea. Big smile. I'm not stupid. Actually, since he has the same body shape as the ticket taker, he looks a bit like the mayor from The Nightmare Before Christmas. His smile isn't creepy though, it's just broad. What is creepy are his eyes. While the ticket taker, Ashtray, and other sprites will always face you, the smiling guy is anchored in place like one of the walls. His eyes, however, are always staring right at you. Just thinking about that gives me chills. Okay. While there's nothing overtly scary or supernatural about the game itself, that's one thing that I will admit legitimately scares me. Like a porcelain doll. Ahem. That's pretty much all there is to the theater. If you can find it somewhere, I'd recommend downloading it just to see what it's like. Oh, one thing I'd forgotten. As stated in the story, getting the thing to run is, to say the least, difficult. I think someone got a hold of all the code and resources and just compiled it and added their own installer or something. Again, there's nothing paranormal about the installation, it just doesn't work well. And that is the end of the sequel, The True Story of the Theater. Okay, so that was pretty interesting. I do, like I said, I like this as a sequel. This is a really interesting idea for a sequel. Kind of like the skeptics side of it. I like that. Overall, I don't think there's another sequel to this. I think this is where the original story ends. But I feel like this could be a fun idea to keep adding on to. Like maybe another sequel could be made that is somebody else's perspective of this theater game, but with a different twist, like how these two did. But as it is, I like it. Overall, I give it a 6.5 out of 10. I liked it. It's not bad at all. It's not the most amazing thing I've ever read, but I did like it. I liked it a lot. That was pretty cool. I appreciate you guys tagging along for this one, sitting down at the campfire and letting me read you some spooky stories. Let me know what you thought about these two stories in the comments. Let me know what you want to see me read in the future. If you've got any suggestions, if maybe you have a creepy story that you've written that you want me to check out, I'll consider it. Even with it being two stories, this one was definitely a shorter episode. Hopefully you still enjoyed. I know there will be much longer ones in the future as we find longer stories. There will be other short stories, but I don't think it's so much about the length of these. I think it's more just how good it is with the time that it had, because the last story that we read on the show, on the first episode, "If you're armed at the Glenmont Metro, please shoot me." That story was fairly short too. It didn't take very long to read, but it was really, really, really good. The visuals were great, the descriptions were great, the writing was great. This, I would say, isn't as good as that one, but this is still good. It's not bad by any means. There's way worse. We haven't even gotten to the goofy shit yet. Jeff the Killer? Bro. Anyways, thank you guys for watching the pod, especially if you made it to the end here. More episodes coming soon, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.